Welcome to Business Talk, presented in collaboration with the University of Rio Grande and the Ohio State University South Centers, from the heart of southeastern Ohio at the University of Rio Grande TV studio. Our goals are simple: promote the University of Rio Grande and the Ohio State University South Centers, as well as advocate local small business and their support organizations. More importantly, promote southeastern Ohio as a wonderful place to live, explore, and learn. There are many different ways you can find us. The University of Rio Grande Cable Access Channel 17, live online at blogtalkradio.com, and on YouTube if you are unable to catch our show live. Introducing our co-hosts, Jason Winters, Mike Thompson, Patrick Dengel. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoy the show.
Pat, would you introduce our guest today?
I would be very honored and very glad to introduce Mike. Has been in communications with Jessamy Bright. And about 2 months ago, he said, you know who we need to have on our show? Jessamy Bright. And he had given a lot of information about what Jessamy's doing with Patronus Training. She is an instructor with Patronus Training. It was founded by, well, we'll find out how it was started and things of that nature. But having an opportunity to talk with Jessamy, you are right, Mike and Jason. She is very knowledgeable about self-defense and protection and things of that nature. And it's rather interesting. I noticed that you want her to protect me from you guys.
I wasn't worried about you so much.
Not on my list.
I think they can handle themselves.
Okay. Well, it was worth a try.
It was worth a shot.
Well, Jessamy, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We certainly are glad that you're here with us today. Why don't you take a few minutes in the opening and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, sure. I kind of got interested in firearms a few years ago. My brother-in-law, Tyson Houchins, is the owner of Patronus Training. He founded the company, and he's my brother-in-law. Mm-hmm. And a few years back, my husband wanted us to purchase a firearm for home protection. And I'd grown up with other firearms, but not really handguns. I hadn't had much experience with that. And so we did some research. My husband's a lawyer. That's his thing. He does research. So he did some research, and we purchased our first pistol. And so then we hit up the awesome brother-in-law for a class, kind of the first steps, what to do with this thing. And
was that concealed carry at that point, or was that
to operate
it?
Yeah, that was just kind of how to operate it. Sort of like one of our protective pistol classes, kind of how this thing works, the parts of it, how to shoot, marksmanship fundamentals, and pretty much I walked out of that initial class, and in the car I was telling my husband, I love this, I want to do this, I want to be a women's instructor, and specifically for ladies. That was my thing I was really super excited about. And pretty much from there, went and took my class to get my concealed carry permit. And a few months later, Tyson gives me a call and says, would you consider coming on as the female element for Patronus Training? Would you consider being an instructor? And I said, well, sure. I would love that. So he invited me to start classes, and we started teaching our protective pistol classes in June of last year. And then we kind of started seeing more interest in concealed carry, especially in the area. For local folks would ask, do you offer the concealed carry classes? And at that point we did not. Tyson was NRA certified, and I was not at that point. So I went and took a training class with Mid-Ohio Firearms Training Academy in Columbus in October of, I guess, last year. And since then, we've pretty much been hammered down. We do a class a month, and just loving it. Live
Yeah,
on
my
the
wife
range.
was one that, years ago she said, I never want to fire a weapon. And so I got into it, and I said, you got, try it at least. Here, I've got a couple different sizes of pistols. Here, try this one, try that one. After a while, it's like, I kind of like this. So she's now the one that bugs me. Can we go to the range today?
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of reasons why individuals need the training. Care to share some of the major reasons?
Sure. A lot of our students, every time we kind of introduce ourselves at the beginning of each class, and we ask each student to introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about why they're there, why they feel the need to get their concealed carry permit. And a lot of them are just really cite an increase in violence, especially here in the local area. That has been kind of the overwhelming response, that they're seeing a lot more break-ins. We had a murder, a kidnapping in Gallia County, which, previously that was kind of unheard
I
of.
think
We've
a
had
lot of this
several
is
murders actually in the last couple of
Yeah.
years.
I think this is a
Right.
lot tied to the drug problem. When people get on drugs and they need the money for their next hit, then that's when they break into places, and those people are not in their right minds. And
Right.
it's sad that if this person wasn't under the influence, I might think they're pretty cool, but when you break into my house, you're taking your life in your hands.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
Pat, I think there's a misunderstanding among the general public that the people that are going to get their permit to carry are adrenaline junkies. They're these cop wannabes.
Right.
They're on an ego trip, and that's the type of person that wants to carry a gun. And I think the opposite is true.
Absolutely.
For my case, I'm certainly not an adrenaline junkie. Yes, I've been raised around shotguns my entire life, and I did hunt growing up with my father. Never really owned a pistol until the last probably 5 or 10 years, probably similar to your case. But, I live in the country, and there's been several times that we'd come home at night and someone would be parked in our driveway. That's a really uneasy feeling. When you pull in and the closest police officer,
Isn't very close.
20
15
minutes.
Right.
minutes is fast.
That's fast, yeah.
That's a scary feeling.
And I don't like, what you're saying, people labeling people like us gun nuts.
Right.
Yeah.
Like there's something wrong with you, you're super aggressive, or you're just crazy.
No, I'm probably
Yeah.
one of the more laid back individuals you'll ever want to meet.
Yeah.
That's really overwhelmingly that's how it is with the folks we see coming through our classes. They're ordinary people who want to protect themselves and their loved ones, and they're not crazy.
So is it a bunch of guys like that have a Rambo attitude, or is there a bunch of girls, or what's the mix?
The mix has probably been about 3/4 ladies, and some of which have come with their significant other, whether that's a boyfriend or husband.
Do you think they've been dragged to it,
There
or do
have
you
been a
think they're
few.
dragging their boyfriends?
There's been a little of both definitely, but I've been really pleasantly surprised. I think part of that is probably because a lot of the fellows that would have been interested in concealed carry, they already have their permit. But now the ladies are kind of catching up. We're kind of.
Do you see any change, from the beginning of class to the end of class with these women?
Certainly. I've had quite a few, especially ladies that have maybe never even fired a handgun before, and maybe they don't even know what they brought with them to class. And so from the beginning, they might be a little trepidatious, a little timid about it. And at the end, some of them are up there shooting bullseyes and are really happy with the class, and are excited then to move on to some of our other classes. And
Do you see the sense of empowerment maybe they get from that?
yeah, and just kind of demystifying it. It's a tool, and for them to
Right.
realize that this is how it works. It does. It takes away a lot of the, oh, it's going to go off and
Yeah,
hurt
just
me.
because it's laying there doesn't mean it's going to jump up and get you.
Right.
And I would
Exactly.
like to take some people that have a bad attitude towards firearms, like, come to the range with me. Let me show you what this is. You know,
Yeah.
I've seen it on the news where people are like,
Mhm.
"You get a big rush from this." Like, to me, it's like golf. You know, I'm just trying to get better. That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the same thing. Just trying to get more hits on the target.
One of the things that I've heard, especially from mothers that have young children, etc., they are always concerned about having some kind of pistol, rifle in the house.
Yeah.
And how do you address that with your?
Yeah, you've got
With
small
my
children.
yeah. I have 2 daughters. One is going to be 10 and the other is going to be 4 in June and July. And I went through kind of the basics. The NRA has a good program, the Eddie Eagle program, and it's just a real basic what to do, what not to do is not to touch the firearm. They basically tell you stop, don't touch, and go tell an adult. So that's all that they typically cover, and they kind of leave the rest up to parents for further training. But for mine, both of my girls have shot a 22. It's not giant, but they've both shot at the range
Right.
under close supervision, so they know how it works, but they only handle firearms when I am physically there, and they know that they're never to touch firearms, and I keep them away from them at home, secured. So.
Do you usually use a locked box or anything? Do you recommend that?
I think it kind of depends on the situation.
It does.
Can
It
you
certainly
trust
does.
your kids? You know,
Truly.
or I mean, you know, my dad had one laying around, and I just never touched it. Never ever did I, you know, bother it because that's dad stuff.
That's off
Don't mess with
limits.
it.
Right.
But you know, there are, you know, I know other boys that are like 8, 10 years old. No, I ain't letting this stuff just sit around, and I would lock it up.
Well,
Yeah.
This
I
day
think
and
you-
age, I would probably lock it up if I had small ones in the house.
I think you
Yeah.
made a very good point. A gun is a tool, and unfortunately, it's a tool to kill, but it's also a
Right.
tool to protect you. Both of
Well,
my
so
boys.
is a hammer. A hammer,
Well,
you can kill
Okay,
with a hammer.
well,
Well,
let me say
what you're-
this:
what you're getting
if
at
I
is-
have an individual break into my home when I'm not there, and my 2 boys are, the hammer that's on the bench is not going to help them.
That's right.
But
That's right.
the gun that they know where it's at could save their life.
Right.
and that has
And how to
happened.
use
Yeah,
it. There have
and-
been many, especially
Absolutely.
recently.
But as soon as it came into the house, they knew how to use it. They were trained as well. They know the safety. They know that they're not to touch it, but if situation calls for itself, they do know how to use it.
You know, once in a while we hear on the media, and I think the media services does do injustice. But sometimes, you know, growing up, I have heard of individuals getting shot cleaning the pistol or the gun. And to me, I do not understand how you can shoot yourself by cleaning a gun.
It's
Well,
complacency.
it's because you're not following the basic safety rules.
Right.
Most paramount of which is keep your finger off of the trigger until you're ready to fire. That all of those cases where someone has a discharge, negligent discharge, or an accidental discharge where the gun, magically goes off. It's not magic. They have their finger on the trigger and have actually accidentally, apparently in that case, but they pulled the trigger, and some people like to pass it off as it magically went off, and it doesn't. So that's
and check if
Yeah.
there is rounds in the chamber or
Exactly.
the magazine. Unload it.
unloaded
Yeah.
ammunition in the next room.
And I think,
Definitely.
I think
And they
the
say-
first lesson that I ever learned about a gun was when I was probably this tall, and it was from my father. All guns are loaded.
Yes.
They're
Right.
just considered. They're all loaded.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not pointing it at your body parts. You're not pointing it at someone else that you're something or someone you're not willing to destroy. Definitely. We actually had someone who had prior military experience. That's a distant relative. That was complacent, and he had a new toy, a new firearm, and had the wrong attitude about it, and ended up shooting himself through the hand at close range, and through the leg of his father, who was obviously in bed. They were, standing here taking a look at the new gun, and that meant that he had his finger on the trigger, his hand was in front of the muzzle, and he was pointing it at his dad's leg.
So he broke all three rules.
Broke all rules.
Sure.
Exactly.
Because the rules would be keep it pointed in a safe direction, keep your finger off the trigger, and treat it as if it's always loaded.
Yep.
So you can break one, maybe. Two, no. Because then you've got it pointed and your finger on the trigger or something.
Right.
So what are the levels of classes? You've got concealed carry.
Which is just the NRA's basic pistol. Generally, it's a safety class. It's a pretty long day. Ohio requires 12 hours of total time. And
what's the mix of that being shooting and classroom?
10 hours of classroom time and 2 hours on the range. So we don't get as much training time as we do with our other classes for that particular class. But we do run you through the basics and make sure you can actually hit what you're aiming at, and do it safely. That's the main thing. It is a safety class. From there, we have our protective pistol classes, and those are more protective pistol 1. You can come in as a newbie, is what we like to call them, and we do run over handling and parts a little bit, but it's mostly time on the range.
You kind of expect that you've fired a weapon before, and this is how to do it better.
Right. Yeah, and it's more, Tyson provides more of maybe a tactical or combat tactics and mindset, a little bit deeper into actual self-defense work, because the basic pistol course just makes sure you can actually shoot something and hit something.
Yeah, there's plinking.
Right.
Which is just basically going out and shooting targets. But that's just shooting targets.
Right.
And
not progressing in your skills.
The protective pistol would be more fighting. What the attitude is when you're trying to defend yourself and some of the ideas behind that.
Right. And actually, if I recall, you and your wife and a couple ladies were our most hardcore students, because we were out on the range for that class.
It was about 35 degrees or so.
About 35 degrees. We were out there. It took us 6 hours instead of 4 because we took a lot of breaks.
Yeah, get back in your car.
I was really impressed with you all. I tell stories about that. I'm like, yeah, we were on the range, and it was in the freezing range. It was not fun.
So what you're saying is, if I wanted to get a concealed gun, concealed pistol
permit,
for your permit,
I must go through your training program or a training program.
You don't have to go through mine, but yes,
well,
you have to go through an NRA certified instructor and take their basic pistol course, and then take your certificate and apply to your local sheriff's department, and we cover all kind of the bases of that in class.
And
there is a test. You do have to pass a test.
Yes.
So it's not just a matter of sitting there and listening to somebody.
And forgetting.
You actually have to comprehend what they're telling you.
So what kind of questions would be on the test?
Well, we cover, it's going to be over the parts of the pistol, and some of the function, safety rules, fundamentals of marksmanship. It pretty much covers all of the curriculum. There's at least one question kind of hitting the high points of all 10 hours of instruction for the day. So, yes.
And then
there's
after
also laws
that,
involved.
And the laws, yes.
Oh yeah.
We have our
Very
nice laws booklet that everyone gets.
And then the last part, after you've applied at your local sheriff's department, you have to pass a background check.
Yep.
So with your questionable background, you don't know if you might still pass that.
But let's just suppose
That long rap sheet you have, I'm sure.
I'm sure, right?
Let's just suppose I do pass it, and I were to go over to West Virginia.
Yeah.
Would I be permitted to?
Yes.
So,
or if I want to take a road trip to Florida.
Well, you need to be checking on your reciprocity maps.
Okay.
There are a lot of tools online that kind of show what states have reciprocity, which means kind of an agreement with Ohio, and that just means that they honor our concealed carry permit in that state. And it has to be substantially similar to kind of what our laws and requirements are. And with Ohio, you get quite a few states. I don't remember the exact count, but you can also apply for an out-of-state non-resident permit in Florida and can get you a few extra states in case you're traveling.
And you should check the laws in those states in between.
Yes,
There
absolutely.
are things that, like, whether you should tell the police if you get pulled over for speeding. There's different laws whether you should tell them whether you're carrying or not. Some of them don't care, and some of them get very irritated if you don't.
Exactly.
So carrying means
Exactly.
it's on your person or it's around you. What does that mean? Carrying
In the vehicle
right.
loaded.
in the vehicle
Yes.
loaded. Oh, okay.
Because you can carry, you can have a weapon in the car,
Unloaded.
but
Has to
the
be unloaded.
ammunition,
Unloaded,
Yes.
and in a particular manner also.
right?
Okay.
Or
so that,
they get very upset about that.
okay, so that would be considered a concealed weapon if I had a rifle that was loaded on the floor of my car. That would be considered.
I don't know that it
I don't
can't.
know about the rifle.
I don't think
Rifle
it
is
covers
not
rifles.
concealable.
Right. If you can
Ah.
conceal that, kudos to you. But
Yeah.
I thought I had a pretty big firearm to conceal. But that's
Are you carrying a rifle, or are you just happy to see me?
exactly. There you
Yeah, the
go.
concealed carry only applies to handguns.
Oh,
Yeah.
handguns. Okay. All right.
Yeah, rifles are a different class.
Oh, okay.
They
All right.
do have requirements for how you can store and transport
I
those,
see.
similar to the handguns when you don't have your license. But yeah, they're right.
So both of some of us in here have concealed rights to carry handguns, and obviously, what happens if you wanted to take a plane to the other part of the United States?
Don't
Yeah,
try
that's a
to
good
carry it.
question.
Check with
Can you?
you can check with whatever your particular airline. People do travel for competitions and do check their firearms. Generally, it's going to be unloaded in a locked case in your other luggage, and you do have to declare it. But you always are going to have to check your regulations and with your particular carrier of who you're traveling with.
Yeah, you will not be able to
generally-
take that as a carry-on.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That will have to
exactly.
be locked in a case and
In
checked
your
with your
checked
checked
luggage.
baggage.
Oh, I see.
Definitely,
I see.
definitely.
And how
But you
about,
do have to probably fill out papers or
Oh,
something.
I'm sure. I've never had to travel
Right.
yet. Well, we did take a trip for vacation, and we went to D.C. and the surrounding area. And of course, the one
DC is not a
place-
friendly place.
It is not gun friendly. So Jessamy was not carrying the SIG that day or any day in that vacation. And that was a little rough because the SIG is kind of my baby, and it was in its case, locked up, and I couldn't.
Yeah. After a
Really
while,
with
you
it.
kind of feel naked if you don't. And it's sort of like
It's
going in
kinda
without
weird.
your phone.
Right. Yeah.
so suppose I wanted to go to Canada. Am I permitted to bring a concealed weapon if I have the necessary paperwork?
You know,
Or is
I
it-
don't
think
know.
you
I can
could
get back to
probably
on that,
take it
but
in, maybe, but I don't know if
I don't know
there's
if you can
reciprocity.
conceal, right.
I don't
know
That's
if you
one thing
could
I don't
carry
know.
it.
I can
Okay.
definitely research that and get back with you on it.
Okay. All right. Well,
So you're
good.
planning a raid or something?
Yeah,
or-
I'm like, where are we going in Canada there?
We're going to Montreal
Oh,
in
awesome.
a few weeks. My wife and I, and anyone that wants to join us, etc.
Nice.
Now, Pat, I think one thing that I just want to make clear, you actually can carry a pistol on your hip if it's not concealed.
Mhm.
Without the
Without the training,
Without-
They call it open carry.
Yep.
open carry.
Yep.
But that's
Ohio's an
not
open carry state.
really, that's kind of frowned upon.
It is frowned upon for sure.
Well, there's a few reasons. One, because if a bad guy sees you in a store that he's wanting to rob, you're the first person he's going to shoot because he knows you're armed. And two, if you're just walking down the street, the police are probably going to get a few calls like there's a guy with a gun walking down the
There's
street.
a girl with a
And
gun.
then, and then
I
you're going to get
Right.
stopped, and it's like, why are you doing this? And you know,
you'll have
it's
to be
a big hassle.
Right. You'll have to be really up on your constitutional rights and the laws of your state, whether your state is open carry. And I would I really try to avoid
I wouldn't.
confrontations with the police when it's not, entirely necessary. One day we were having a class and we needed to take a restroom break with some of the ladies at the local gun shop, Backwoods Guns.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think a thing about it. I had my range belt on. I'm open carrying. I don't even remember if it was loaded or not. Even in a gun shop, I got some crazy looks like, dude, she's got a gun. Oh, she's going to shoot me? I'm like, guys, I'm a firearms instructor. I'm your best friend here when it comes to guns. But it was really kind of an interesting experience. I'd not really gone out and open carried. And so even with people who are more familiar with guns, now Jeremiah, who is the owner, he has no problem with that at all.
Sure.
But some of the patrons were like, okay, what are you doing with that? So.
Jessamy, we got about 3-4 minutes left.
Okay.
What have we not talked about that you really want to get in before our show ends?
Definitely want to talk about our women's shooting league.
Right.
Okay.
That is that's my baby. Once we started our protective pistol classes and then went into doing the basic, the NRI basic pistol course, the concealed carry classes, I kind of saw a need. A lot of the ladies that would come through our classes really didn't seem like the type that they would just buy a range membership and go to the range and practice by themselves for hours on end, which is something I do, but I am not, by any means, I'm not normal in that respect. I'm kind of, above average in my desire for training and sort of the tactical side of things, and most ladies aren't, and that is totally fine. But I kind of saw the need for continued training, for opportunities to have them come to the range and just basically to get them familiar with being at the range, practicing, and doing it in a positive environment. So once a month we go out to our home range, the Backwoods Guns range in Bidwell, and we do fun drills and have some competitions and give prizes out. Pretty much just
like
talking.
most sports.
Yeah.
When girls are around a bunch of guys in sports, the guys just want to prove something, and the girls go, "Okay, I'm done." But when it's a group of girls, then it's a different atmosphere, I'm sure.
Right, it is, and ladies generally are more. I think there's not the. I have to prove myself that I know what I'm talking about or anything. They come with the idea that they want to learn something new and from the student perspective, and I love it. It's like my little family. I've got quite a few ladies that do come on a regular basis. We've been doing this just a couple months now, and I really look forward to it.
So how can they get in touch with you to join the league?
Sure. On our website is patronustraining.com, and that will actually take you to our Facebook page. And we have kind of information on classes. For the league, we do limit it to students that we have had so that I know you, I know you're safe, and I know that you know proper gun handling. Not that you're an expert marksman, but that you're not going to accidentally shoot me or one of the other students. So I make sure that safety is the number one thing, and then we have a lot of fun. And so that's the reason for that. So you need to come and either have a private session of private range instruction with me, or come and do one of our concealed carry classes or one of our other classes when we offer those.
Because the one thing you could say, too, is if you've taken the concealed carry class, you really don't, I wouldn't like to see somebody just take the class and then put the gun in the closet or whatever and leave it there. And you haven't touched it for 2 years.
It's a perishable skill.
Right. You need to go and practice.
Exactly.
So again, the website is Patronus or Patron US Training.com.
Yes.
All right. Well, very good.
What does Patronus mean, Pat?
Excellent question. Jessamy?
In Latin, it means protector or defender.
Protector and defender.
Yes, that's what we're all about, teaching others to protect and defend themselves and their loved ones.
Well, I really appreciate your coming on.
Thank you very
any
much for having me.
final words you want to, any advice you want to give to the listening audience? Be safe.
Sure. Be safe. Get out there and train. have an open mind, learn some new things. If you can, come and join us.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be great.
You have been listening to Jessamy Bright with Patronus Training, and we thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
Jason.
I'm Mike.
I'm Patrick.
And I'm Jessamy.
Thanks for
Have
watching.
a good day.